Hey, Steve.
Hi, Rodney. What you up to?
Let me get things adjusted here. Okay, yeah, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. We had quite a storm yesterday. We got
Um, it,
wind, very high winds. Yeah, got really dumped on.
so was another Ladrate show or whatever they call them?
No, it was just 50 mile, 56 mile an hour winds. Um, Cold. Western Iowa really got dumped on. The interstates had to be closed down. Northwest Iowa got hit pretty hard.
Rain or snow or both?
Snow.
Ooh. Well, let's see. It's the first week in March. Yeah, that's right on schedule.
Yeah, the girls' state basketball tournament started up, so that kind of goes along with the 1st of March,
It does.
having weather like that. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I think it's going to be in the 70s here in a few days. It's just weather's just crazy.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
You ever heard of the Grinnell, Iowa Model Railroad Club?
The Grinnell?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. I'd seen reference to it, and supposedly they have a CTC panel that they use. But I I just found out about it like yesterday, and I haven't had time to research it.
Well, let's do a quick see if we can find something. Grinnell Railway Express Model Railroad Club.
Say where they meet at.
I'm looking.
There's that depot there in Grinnell at the UP and the Iowa Interstate intersection junction there. That's kind of
Uh,
like iconic. It's a circular tower.
Looks like the website hasn't been updated in a while.
Yeah,
But
that's what I was wondering.
but at the same time, at the bottom it says copyright 2025.
Well, that might be Java script thing
True.
too. It's hard to tell.
The other stuff looks like it hasn't been updated since about 2011.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious.
Nope, haven't heard of them.
Hey, I got a question for you. I've been going through redoing my signaling once more after I realized with our phone conversation I had messed it up. So, um, when you've got a control point that has no signals, like a spur turnout to a industry, um, on your CTC panel, uh, you wouldn't have signal indicators. You just have a control panel indicator. to freeze it so nobody can change the turnout?
Um, okay. First, some terminology. Control point, the control point means that the dispatcher controls it.
I yeah, that was my plans, and if then I could unlock it if somebody was doing switching there from the dispatcher's panel, so
Um,
that somebody could um, switch in out of that industry. Is that normal that you would have that on your CTC panel?
if I think it's going to be very railroad related,
Uh,
and the reason I say that is personal experience. You know what you can see. I've looked at the old Moffett line from Denver to Salt Lake City,
yeah,
and I've seen the CTC panel for it. Um, and that, but this was like 20 years ago what the panel looked like. And if you look at the panel, certain things are not shown at all. For example, there's right around Leiden between Denver and I guess it's between Leiden and the Big Ten curves. There's an old spur called the Chem Spur,
yeah.
chemical spur.
I see it on the uh, camera, the live camera.
Yeah, it's not on the panel.
It's not on the panel.
Nope. And if you look at the Big Ten curves, there's a passing siding there at Rocky Siding
Yeah,
before it hits it's at the Little Ten curves. And if you look at coming off of Rocky Siding, there's both a house track, and you can see that on the camera. And there's also way back up in there. So the house track, when you're looking at it from the camera side, is comes off on the right. And I think that actually may be double ended. I don't remember. I'd have to look at the camera again. That doesn't show up. And what's even more important is there's another spur that goes up the hill and crosses Highway 93, which is um, that road, that major road you can see that crosses over the Moffett line, and that used to go to what's was Rocky Flats Arsenal, and there's still a what is it? Looks like a cement plant and some stuff like there's
yeah.
some industry up in there. That's not on the panel either. Um, so
Well, how does the dispatcher lock the turnouts from?
I don't think he can.
Oh, really? Okay.
Rather, typically, what they might do in a situation like that is, well, you know that the turnout's going to have a hand lock on it that the crew's got to unlock because
Right.
you don't want anybody walking around just throwing it.
Sure.
Okay, so one thing that can be done then is when the crew needs it, they will ask for track and time or track authority or something to let the dispatcher know that they're doing something there, and basically have permission to unlock it. He gives them a verbal type of permission. When they unlock it, then it's tied in with the CTC system such that the signals at both ends of or that are protecting it wherever it enters the main line at or the siding
Yeah.
will then automatically drop to red and stay at red as long
Eh,
as it's unlocked.
Okay. Tell its line back up, and he's called the dispatcher and said they're done.
Yep.
Okay.
So what the dispatcher do if he gives them track and time, then that will depending again what kind of system what the area is and stuff like that, that will then put a block on on the siding that or on the track that the siding goes into, or not the siding but the spur goes into, and the dispatcher will not be able to line anything into it.
Okay.
And
Does the dispatcher go to his panel and uh, the two? the left and right control points, and he flags them as hold, or
Yeah, basically. I
so, or does he just click on the track
he
display and blocks it that way?
he he he, he would typically click on the track display and lock that big chunk of track,
Oh,
because if he locks the turnouts on the ends
yeah,
of the passing siding, so to speak, then he wouldn't be able to do anything with it. For like he couldn't line trains through it and stuff like that. So he would basically lock the siding itself.
okay. So not the turnouts, but or not the east and west, but okay. Well, by locking that up, it would the east and west signals and would go to red. I would.
Yes.
Okay, so he really didn't have to do anything beyond clicking on the track to say that it's occupied, and okay, that that
Yeah.
makes that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, he does it so he does want something to show up on his panel, so you know that a guy's sitting there working it. For example, let's suppose that you got a local come in. He's only 3-4 cars long or something like that,
Yeah,
and he wants to work the spur. Um, he would unlock it, and that would do, and then the signals will pick that up. The fact they unlocked it will go out to the protecting signals and force them into red.
okay, yeah,
And then if the train got totally off of let's say it's coming off the passing side, if the train pulled up into the spur and it
yeah,
wasn't occupying the siding anymore, he wouldn't know that anything was going on. So consequently, he needs to he would need to uh, give him track and time or something, and then on his board, if it's a modern type screen, his board that track would turn typically blue or something like that.
okay. So if the local pulls into the siding, he's off the main line. Normally, that would free that section up, but he still has it locked down.
Yes, as long
So,
as as long as he's got the turnout to the spur unlocked, then yeah, he's well. Okay, you got two things going on. You got the mechanical motion of the unlocking the spur turnout interacting with the signaling system. And the second thing you got going on then is the dispatcher granting track authority, track and time there. Okay. So
yeah,
so it's possible that the local then could actually pull up into the spur and he says, well, I'm going to be here for several hours, so I'm going to release my track and time. And so in which point he would then lock the spur back to the mainline siding, whatever, and he would release the track and time, and the dispatcher then would release it, and that would then turn the colors back to as though the train wasn't even there.
okay, yeah, yeah. We had signals at Mediapolis on Old Rock Island, but I think they're just ABS searchlight signals.
Where were they at?
Well, I remember the one south of town. You'd head off walking down to where the gypsum plant spur
Hmm.
would be,
Yeah.
and there was one there um, on the line from Burlington to Columbus Junction, Cedar Rapids. There may still be a couple searchlights that would be along the bike trail.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, and then of course got Cedar Rapids and went north to Vinton up to Waterloo. And I mean, decades ago, the batteries were all removed and the signals gutted, but I think there's still maybe one or two searchlight signals. They were never where I don't ever remember seeing one around where a switch was. They were just out in the wilderness, so to speak.
Yeah. well, they don't have to be right at the switch. I mean, it's just,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just goes out to this, I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't put this interlocking between the lock on the turnout and whatever the protecting signal is, which could be miles away.
Okay. Well, yeah. I what I'm saying is, um, I all I remember seeing is one-headed signals.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Sure.
um, and they were in pretty bad. Um, they've been shot up by
Oh yeah.
you know hell anything out in the country gets shot at anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so the only now I spend a lot of time for Madison watching trains go through there and trying
Mm-hmm.
to figure out the signals.
Mm-hmm.
But back in those days, they weren't as fancy as what they have now. What I really miss is the ATCS, where you could
Yeah.
put it on your PC and actually see things changing, and that was pretty interesting. But all that's gone by the wayside, or most of it is.
Most of it is, yeah.
Yeah, there are very few track plans left that are still operating.
Well,
Uh,
typically, again, it's general and there's exceptions all over the place. But typically, if you see a single-headed signal, that's typically a block signal, which is not at, well, I shouldn't say that. I want to say at a control point. But if you look at the triad of signals around a control point, the exit signals typically are single-headed too. But if it's all out by its lonesome with nothing around it, then it's typically a block signal. And
yeah,
and
it, and I don't.
ABS, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember so much a signal on one side of the track, another single searchlight on the other side of the track that much. But all that stuff probably got ripped out. Um, I don't know, maybe in the 50s.
Yeah.
So
Well,
um,
I've seen we've taken I-70 from Denver to like Kansas City, and that's the old who was it, Kansas Pacific? I forget who owned. Anyway, the tracks follow I-70 for quite a ways, and you'll see single signals without a corresponding one on the other side either. Um, I don't understand. I don't know enough about them to say why they didn't double them up rather than why you got one going one direction, not the other direction.
yeah, that think you'd think there'd be two of them, one for bi-directional or even on the same mast,
Yep.
have two searchlights. Yeah, yeah, that is strange, but um, I'm sure cost is always a factor in what they could do and wouldn't do.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
it, I'm just amazed at how much the horns are going for now. $5,000 for KLA 5 horn. It, the horns that came off the older first generation diesels and stuff.
Yep.
It's just amazing. There's a group on Facebook where they buy and sell diesel horns, train horns, and I just can't believe people are spending that much money on that stuff.
Yeah. And until you add the air movement to them and stuff like that, they don't do anything.
Yeah, well, I guess some people are mounting them on their pickups with a air compressor and going around town blowing them. Which, yeah. So Canadian National took over the Iowa Northern here.
I was wondering, I'd seen something that indicated they weren't anymore or something like that, but I hadn't followed the details.
Well, it's interesting because Iowa Northern locally would run from Waterloo down the old Rock Island tracks and coming to Cedar Rapids. And then the Canadian National had a line from Manchester east of Waterloo down to Cedar Rapids. So now they've got the two lines like a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting that the line from Manchester down to Cedar Rapids will probably be abandoned.
Yeah.
There won't be much reason for it. And now that the weather's getting better, I want to get the drone down to Cedar Lake where the Rock Island Yard is, or well, it's now the Canadian National Yard, and they've got a weigh car, scale car down there buried back in the bushes
Oh,
that I've seen from the drone, and I want to get some better photos of it before that gets scrapped out.
yep.
But well, I think one thing about the railroads, they don't move very fast.
Well, if if
Some,
you watch, yeah, if you watch the ATCS monitoring group, it sounds like they're going real fast in terms of converting to PTC and getting rid of all the old
yeah,
um
yeah, and I do monitor that group. That's
yeah,
where original software and everything. But some of that was a directive from the government too, wasn't it, for security
yeah,
that they had to do or something.
yeah. They may be facing a deadline. I don't remember. Yeah, I think they may be facing a deadline.
Yeah, but it's a shame that we can't, as rail fans, sit there in our living room and watch it on the personal computer.
Yeah,
But I can kind of understand why railroads don't want you to do it.
yeah. Well, it used to be like on the UP, you used to be able to enter a car number because I one of my friends here was always interested where the Boeing cars were, and
So
he knew what the numbers were, and he'd enter it and say, "Oh, okay, we've got one coming up the joint line," or something like that. And then
really,
yeah, and then the UP about 9/11, the UP figure, this may not be such a good idea that anybody can access this stuff. So now you have to have a UP login and all that kind of stuff in
sure,
order to.
as a shipper, it would make. But of course, nowadays they're kind of tagging every car so that the shipper can just go online and see where it's at.
Yeah, but they pay the money to the UP to do that,
Yeah,
whereas we real fans aren't going to.
no, a lot of rail fans are pretty cheap when it comes to some of that stuff. So you got any big conventions going on out there?
Mm. We've got 1st of April. There's a train show in Denver, and it's been growing and growing. So I've heard good things about it. Um, that's about the only thing I think we've got coming up. Well,
Yeah.
there's the Rocky Mountain Region Convention in Durango in May, and that's about it for now.
Oh, can the weather still be iffy in Durango in May?
Oh, sure.
I would think so.
It, yeah, who knows? I mean, because I came home from work one day and a blizzard it was like May 20th or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's rare. But
Well, it's a good little on the map. It doesn't look like it's that far from Denver, but it's almost full day's drive
it is.
because there's no straight road there.
No.
And that US 50 down there at Gunnison, I got washed out. The bridge got took out. Um, I don't know when that's going to reopen.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem. There's no straight routes, and and the routes that are there aren't level. You gotta go up and down and up and
Yep.
down.
Yeah. Takes a good day of driving.
Yep. Now I understand the 2026 convention is going to be a joint convention between the Rocky Mountain region and the Mid Continent, you guys, and
Yeah.
it's going to be in Cheyenne.
Okay.
And that's
Hmm.
going to be interesting because they want to do stuff like get down to the Colorado Railroad Museum and things like that. Um, but what's going to be, I think, a little on the difficult side is okay. Cheyenne has what they call depot days, and I think it's like the
Right.
first week in May or June or one of
Yep.
those two.
Yeah.
And it's going to be at the same time as that, which means that Cheyenne is just going to be packed with people. Um, and so I don't know what it's going to be like trying to find hotel accommodations.
Yeah. Is that when you can actually go through the Steam shop?
They have done it in the past. They have opened up the Steam shop.
Because I saw they were making tickets available for this year's.
Oh, okay.
But those go out, those go pretty fast,
Yeah.
where you can walk through with your camera and take photos.
Yep.
In the old days back in the 70s, go out there to chase the big, well, at that time, the Challenger and the 84, 44. And you could just walk through the shop,
Yeah.
get there early and as they were working on things. But don't think I have any photos I took of those days.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a couple tours. I've been through it several times, not recently, and I did get a few pictures. Again,
Yeah.
like I say, it's probably not enough.
I think I do have some photos. Seems like there's E8 sitting in there.
Hmm.
I'll have to dig around and try to find those slides.
Yeah.
That,
They may have moved the E units to Omaha because I don't think I've seen well, they've got some that were they had one or two that was old CNW or something,
yeah,
and those look like they were rusting out.
I was in Las Vegas, um, and this must have been 76, 77. And UP had a passenger train that had those E8s on it. I think they were E8s. Anyway, it was parked down there um, downtown at Union Pacific Depot in Vegas. So,
Yeah, we chased it. They had, I think, is a pair of V8s. I think a couple of A's and one or two B's. And when the Union Pacific Historical Society had their annual convention in Cheyenne, they had was it Cheyenne? Anyway, it was somewhere out here. I don't think it was Laramie. I think it was Cheyenne. We chased it across through eastern Wyoming, and it was the full heritage fleet and everything. That was pretty cool.
yeah. Well, I got a question. I'm sitting down here in the basement. I was going to work on a control panel, JMRI uh, control panel. And you put items on like turnouts and
Hmm.
track. How in the hell do you ever get those things lined up horizontally and vertically besides dragging them? Surely there's some function that can say, okay, put this section, this block or this turnout next to this other turnout and line them up vertically.
I think there is, but I'm not sure. We need, one of the real JMRE experts here to do that. I think it's like a shift something or a control something.
Okay.
It's one of those obscure keystroke sequences.
Yeah, maybe I look through the help because I've got, maybe 100 different items, objects on the control panel, and it looks like the storm came through and moved them around.
Yeah.
I'd like to get them lined up, and that's under. and I'm using the editor for whatever reason. I've just found it easier to use the editor to add items and stuff. But I, I assume you're. I was looking at a YouTube video of cats, and it looks like you've got something that does that when you create an object on the screen. You can tell to line up next, you know, to the next to the other previous objects.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, because it's the fundamental underpinnings is a square. And if you put a track across the square, it's going to be the vertical or diagonally or horizontal or whatever. And then you put another square next to it, you got the same thing. So they do it automatically.
Um, you don't you drag it over close to it, and then it automatically snaps to.
No, what you do is you pick the square and then you the squares, by their very definition, it's are next to each other. You've just
Oh,
basically,
okay.
and then
It
so you put something in a square.
oh, gotcha. It's a blank grid
Yep.
on screen, and you drag something into that location, that grid. Okay.
Yeah, you basically you don't actually drag, you just say put a track in here
Oh,
or put a
okay.
signal in here.
Okay. Well, I think those are the two questions I was curious about.
Sure. Yeah, we're starting to look into the N-Scale guys here are starting to look into doing a T-track module for layouts. So that's going to be interesting.
Okay, refresh the T track. They're standalone. Each module is standalone.
No, it's they're about 13 by 11, I think.
Oh, those are the lightweight ones that you can
Yeah,
carry around.
two
You,
two tracks and they use the Kato unit track on them, so that's what holds them together. You just plug them together and
uh, the okay. Our nephew Ty has been texting me about uh, getting into model railroading.
oh
He and Austin have been going to different things, and last time they were here in town, I showed Ty and Austin my stuff down here, but since then they've been to Scottsdale, Arizona at the model train
oh
uh,
yeah,
display
right.
stuff. So anyway, uh, the T track or the lightweight, basically built on foam, and
Um, we're it can be. There's a set of standards out. We're gonna buy some kits, and it looked like they're on a thin wood type construction. You
so
know,
it'd be like a picture frame, and then you put your styrofoam in the frame.
I mean, that's one possibility. The kits we're gonna get are more like boxes out of I don't know what it is, maybe
Oh, that quarter-inch
yeah,
plywood.
yeah,
Okay. And then the goal for that is just put them on a standard table.
yep, banquet table.
Okay, so you don't have all the legs to deal with
Yep,
and stuff. Okay.
yep. Looks like Ken will be able to answer your question about how do you align stuff. I'm sure he would know.
Hi, Ken.
That's- Hello. Let's see if I got this thing set right. Okay. Yes, you do hear me.
Yes.
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay. So since I just clicked in, I have no idea what the question is.
Oh, we're talking about end track, the modules that would. How do you get them lined up?
Oh,
Or
Oh,
no, you're
T track. I'm sorry, it was T track.
T. Okay, T track's no
which?
problem because the tracks overhang the modules and just plug them together. But your question was, How do you align stuff under in Jammer?
Oh, yeah. Uh, I'm at the control panel editor, and I've got
Yep.
100 objects on the screen, sensors, track, turnouts. How in the world do you ever get them to line up vertically and horizontally?
Well, I'll be quite honest, a lot of like if I'm doing like say a US and S type control panel, I cheat. I go and edit the XML file, and I got my little chart next to me telling me, okay, this is going to be at this, and then these are my multiples going
You
this
got,
way and that way.
yeah,
Um, there are some primitives in the editor that lets you like do a click and control click and highlight a number of objects. And there are some alignment tools, but it seemed most of what I was doing was more complex than what that worked with. But then again, I haven't tried that way in so long because cheating and going straight to the object and saying, oh, you're at this XY, you're at this XY. The other is almost all of the objects on the screen. When you right click, one of the things will tell you, okay, this is anchored at this XY, and you can edit it directly.
yeah, and that's what I end up doing because with that many objects on the screen, they get pretty hard to manipulate with the mouse. So I know on my x-axis numbers are going to be, so I'll go in each object and put in the numeric value of the x-axis. But man, it takes forever, it seems like.
Yeah, yeah, I've gotten kind of quick at some of that, but mostly it's I'll look at one object, I'll decide where that needs to be, and then, okay, that gives me either the X or Y of a whole bunch of the other ones.
Yep.
And then I
Yeah.
repeat that and repeat. So yeah,
I I
there
thought,
should be a bit easier, but I've not, like I say, I haven't gone back and tried the align tools because there are things that are supposed to let you tell it to make these all in a horizontal or vertical orientation,
well,
match up.
that's what I thought too, but I've never got it figured out how to get it to do it. I'm looking at, I just opened up a control panel here. Now I'll select an item. There's alignment, and it says align vertically to left edge of what? The panel, or
Um,
vertically to midpoint.
the way I understood it, let's see, I'm thinking here. I think it was that when you selected, it takes the first item you select, and then any additional items you select, it will then try to line up with the first one.
Okay, well, let me try a couple
Now,
things
if
here.
I went off and looked up into the help, I could probably find a more definitive answer. Or barring that, it's the old end up read the code and see what is it really doing here. But I know
Yeah,
that was the
and
intent at the time.
okay.
The other option I could guess at is it takes a bunch of things, figures out where the average point is, and then uses that between them. So to me, that wouldn't be that as useful.
Crap. I had circled, selected like 4 items and put them all on top of each other when
Right.
uh, and there's probably not a way to go back.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is that, yeah, without a control Z, a lot of that moving stuff is kind of painful because, yeah, if you make a mistake, it's
Yeah.
okay, where did you last save?
Yeah. I won't say this because I clicked on alignment and the line vertically to first selected, but it just put them all on top of each other. The 4 items, signal and
Yeah.
2 signals and
Yeah,
2 blocks.
yeah. I might play with it and see if I can find out how it's supposed to work. Of course, my
Okay.
next question then would be for Rodney. Is there something in alignment tools within cats And if so, what concept did you use there?
Yeah. And Steve asked the same question. And the answer is there are no alignment tools because you don't need them. And I say that because the CATS works on a takes your screen and turns it into a grid. Okay. And what you do is you drop stuff into the grid. So the very nature of the fact that the grid is all lined underneath. And if you put a track, for example, you select what kind, you got 6 kind of tracks to put in it, horizontal, vertical, and then any of the 4 diagonals. And so that
Right.
automatically picks a midpoint on 2 sides of a grid. So they line up just the very nature of dropping a track into there. Then you've got a little bit of other of the other things like signal icons and stuff like that. When you define the icon, um, you'll define it. It's tied to one of the edges, and then you can rotate it. You've got six, well, four different ways you can rotate it, or and you can also do some adjustment within in a little bit within the square itself. So it's
Yeah,
not
like I
as it's
said,
not as
I'd
free
have,
form.
yeah, yeah. And actually, when I'm doing my panels, I am frequently turning grid on and off depending on what I need or changing what the size of the grids are. That does help a lot because you can turn on, snap when dropping and snap when moving. And that does help with a lot of the alignment once you have those enabled. But that is a layout editor option. And I don't remember whether it's got an analogy like that or rather, I don't remember what the analogy is in control panel editor because I haven't used that in a while either. All my work's been in layout editor.
Well, for troubleshooting, when you first sit down, okay, you got a bunch of track, you got a bunch of turnouts, and you don't use the control panel editor that much. You use the layout editor
Right.
to, okay. And what's the, I tried using the layout editor and got, I don't know, it just didn't seem to work out well for me. But it's because I'm defining LCC sensors and turnouts and signal masts, and it was some, for whatever reason, years ago, I've just stayed with the CPE editor. The layout editor is what, a more visual representation of the layout.
Well, actually, I'd have to say the how visual you make it or not is variable because, like for me, all of my any of the work I do in layout editor, it's looking like the chart that you would see in a dispatch panel.
Okay.
Everything's lineal. I found a long time ago that trying to make it physically look like the layout um, was a lot more work and usually ended up at least equally confusing.
Yeah,
Um,
I've looked at importing AnyRail, you, the track
yep,
software
I've
layout.
I've I've heard people doing it.
I've messed around with it because originally I built the layout using AnyRail to get dimensions and all the other stuff. And so I think you can import it, but I haven't gone beyond that. I don't think it's going to find the sensors that I need, the LCC sensors. Um, but what I'm saying is that
Yeah,
on AnyRail, I probably didn't label them the same
yeah,
turn.
that's my understanding. That had a lot to do with it. That any rail if you did a bunch of things that you didn't normally need to do in any rail, then it would have the information to pass to JMRI when you
Yeah.
do the import. But a lot of it was things that, well, since it wasn't required in any rail, most people didn't bother with it in any rail. And then you add it, after the fact in JMRI. I guess one of the problems I run into is I've been making panels for people for, let's see, probably since 2 dot something. And I remember when layout editor was this new idea that we were just getting into, and having been doing that so long, between either just being able to fly with the mouse, or a lot of times I'll do something, go in, take a piece of the XML code, then run it through some of my computer editors that are great at saying, okay, take this, it's your template, replace this with these values, multiplied by those values, and populate a whole bunch of stuff real quick compared to what others, the quote manual method would be doing. I think one of them, it was a control panel. I had 36, stations going across the panel. So that was replicating a lot of parts. And that was a couple of macros that took maybe 5 minutes to, once I got the first element in, then the rest took maybe another 5, at most 10 minutes to straighten out.
Yeah, but I've done that in the past. Go and just edit the XML file. Sometimes
Yeah.
much easier to
It's
do it.
if you're careful about it and do small steps, make
Yeah,
sure you don't compound an error. Yeah, but it's also so easy to mess up because this one character out of place can throw it into a nasty place. So I'm
yeah.
looking at my screen right now, and I'm feeling a little bit of the odd man, because I don't share a name with anybody else on the screen. Meanwhile, it's like we got 2 Rodneys, and et cetera, et cetera. Let's see, 2 Rodneys, 2 blacks, then me.
But, yeah, you show as Ken on the screen.
Yep,
If that
yep.
was your, yeah.
Yeah. See.
So I've got to ask you, how's the Amherst show last month?
Oh, the Amherst show was tremendous. We had the largest Fremo layout we've ever had. I
Wow.
think it was somewhere around, what was that? I'm trying to remember the numbers. I'd rather just say it was huge, and it totally filled our, let's see, the one end of it was about a 50 by 50 block, and then we had a leg running that was only about 15 or 20 feet wide, but that ran for like 120 feet out in the other direction, and it was completely filled with track.
Wow.
Yeah, James, the guy he's over in New England somewhere. He managed to get it all crammed together, and it was very impressive. It took all
Do
of Friday to get everything set up, however.
you
So,
think you'll be going to Train Fest in Milwaukee, November?
uh, no, because that overlaps inside the school year. At least Amherst, I'm able to deal with right, right before class starts. Basically, I run home on Sunday and I'm teaching on Monday.
So the Train Fest is now an NMRA thing in Milwaukee, and they're going to go back to West Allis to the fairgrounds. from what I've
No
read.
idea.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, all I know is that this year at Amherst, um, they sold every single space of table that they could. And that happened by, I think, mid-September, maybe last part of September. And beyond that, it was all waiting list. And the guy said that usually during that period, there's enough people calling in saying that something else has come up or a health issue or that, and they drop out and you can stick somebody else in. And he said this year that just wasn't happening. We got everything sold out and then nothing was changing. And that was a rare instance.
Mm.
But the attendance was something around 26 or 27,000 between the
Yeah,
2 days.
that's a pretty big show. Really big show.
And what was interesting is, well, we actually had 2 beautiful days. And Saturday, yeah, I was a little bit more crowded, but it wasn't that much less feeling on the Sunday. So I think the split numbers worked out something like 15,000 and 13,000 or something.
Good turnout.
Mm-hmm. And quite a few new vendors were there too. A few
Yeah,
old vendors that weren't there.
yeah. I
Um,
read about that in the NMRA bulletin. Why some vendors, well, and on the online forums too, group.io, about why some vendors don't go. But I know it costs a lot of money to go and set up.
I mean, it's a fair bit of expense and time and picking up and moving, though for a number, it's many times very important seeing face to face some of the people that they deal with regularly.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay.
Any new products that in electronics, LCC or
Um, there was a few moves on the LCC. Basically, MRC is now getting into production of their LCC based system.
okay?
And of course, the fact that that includes a gateway back to any of the Prodigy stuff that people have. Um, there's one or two other minor things, though. What I ended up tied up with a lot was some of the modular stuff, and Iowa Scaled, who came out with like the proto throttle. Um, they also revamped their line of modular signal system stuff and had a bunch of product actually on hand.
And you're
And we were also discussing some of the redesign of the few that they haven't quite released yet.
okay. Are we talking about ABS signals, searchlight signals? Are we
Yeah,
talking?
basically the MSS standard works around creating a pretty straightforward ABS. But the nice thing is the way you wire the modules, you have one RJ45 connector at either end. And by just plugging them into the adjacent ones, the system works itself out. If you've got a module that's just doing detection, it's joining that local block from wherever a signal is to wherever a signal is, and works together rather seamless. Now, the fact that we've got this one module set and it's about 15 by 24, it's a diamond crossing on a 60-degree angle. Internally, it's all LCC, but at the edge points, it then translates to MSS and reads from the MSS so that its signals all interoperate with the MSS seamlessly.
Okay.
Now, what some of us are kind of planning is when you, and actually one of the other guys who has a really huge module set, it's a single track across one way, double track across the other way with a 90-degree diamond with two of the uh, two of the directions with interchange tracks and a bunch of local industry. And I've started working up a design for him that we're going to implement in LCC. Though he's expecting it'll probably take 3 or 4 years just because, well, he's got other things he'd like to spend it on too.
Boy, I
Between
understand
either
that.
just the capital costs and then just the time of getting it all wired up. So that's how that's going along. Though one thing that we've done is figured out a fairly easy way that within LCC, yeah, and if we get a couple of these islands and then you have just the MSS in between, you can then plug an LCC bus and then do either something like a CATS or that, where it's working in the mode that all it's doing is it's controlling the holds at various places and remote turnout control via the LCC to actually enable dispatching. But we're still seeing that the likelihood of that happening is probably in the 5 to 10 year bracket, just because it takes that long to get that many people interested in playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think this time we had maybe 12 or 13 modules that had the module signal standard. And last year it was more like about 5 or 6. So for a module just to be a detection so that they can be somewhere in between, that's about a whole 20, $25 worth of electronics. Okay, we had this other Rodney show up, but whether or not he had anything to say. It's actually I was running late and I chimed in just to see if things were still going, but myself, I've got an assignment to try to get done, do a 3D print test tonight, and then hopefully have it finished off and make something I need in the lab on for Monday. So if there's anything else, I'll hang around. Otherwise, I might move on.
I just wanted to say hi here. I just was listening in. I came in late and I just listening there, Ken.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes we just have to make sure that that's what's going on.
Yeah, well,
Otherwise,
took me a second to figure out how to unmute my mic here on my phone. Yeah, that
yeah,
Amber show.
I've had
That.
yeah, I've had to use my phone. Usually when I'm actually driving to Springfield, I was in a department meeting for about an hour and a half while driving between home and Springfield. And yeah, some of the controls aren't so easy to get to on a phone.
No, and you got to be used to it. And I only use this Zoom thing just once in a while. So,
Yeah.
but that Amherst show was spectacular, man. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for everybody, but generally it's quite favorable.
Yeah, I enjoy your clinics too. I look forward to it. It's one of our main schedules on Saturday to do that.
Yep. Yeah, it gets nicely attended. I think I'm doing a good service for people.
Yeah, it helps, but it's so everybody's at different levels in that. I can see the problem with trying to get involved. It's hard.
Well, it works out nice that then I've got the table back in the other building that, okay, for specifics, we can do one-on-one and get through stuff.
Yeah, that
Trying
is
to
nice.
do much in a crowd just doesn't, you lose too many.
Right.
And what clinics were you doing at Amherst?
What'd you say, Steve?
I was asking Ken what clinics he was doing at Amherst.
Well, the last 2 or 3 years now, what I've done is I used to be doing like one day I would do an hour clinic on JAMRI, and then the other day I would do LCC. And then next year I'd flip the two as to which day, because a lot of people, they only come Saturdays or they only come
Sure.
Sundays. But I was always getting a lot of feedback that they were showing up, but they really would have preferred the other day. And looking at the content, looking at the level of people in the audience, I ended up figuring out that I can cut some of it down because more people have a basic understanding. And then I could pack it all into the 1 hour and spend a reasonable amount covering issues in both JAMRI and LCC, kind of a half hour each. And people seem to be very happy with that.
Yeah, it's good. It's always tight on the time though.
I like I say, I keep an eye on my computer and it's telling me how to stay on pace. And the funniest thing is, so many other people will like do dress rehearsals and that other stuff. And well, honestly, it's the same way I do a lot of my classes. I kind of figure out what we have to get in. I know what the time is, and I'm constantly recalculating and adjusting. Okay, how much do I explain this? How much, when is it time to move on to that? Keep going and back and forth, back and forth.
I gotcha.
So I'd have to say in some of my classes, I know I'm losing a lot more people. Actually seems in the clinic, most seem to be happy and keeping up with things. Or at least
Yeah.
they don't snore when they fall asleep.
No, it's yeah, just to hear the new stuff and all that, it's great.
So, well, I think I'm going to drop out. Nice chatting with you all.
Yeah.
And we'll see if I can remember the right time next week or next month. And we'll see what else comes up. Okay.
I'll be a little bit earlier next time. We'll see ya.
Bye,
Okay,
Ken.
we'll see ya.
I can.
Rodney Black, we'll see ya.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
So, Rodney, are you coming to Milwaukee for Train Fest? West Allis is where the old Allis Chalmers factory was.
It it's on my list. I want to go to Train Fest sometime.
Yeah.
I just get really scared off by thinking about going to Milwaukee in late November.
Yeah, it can be. Well, I think it's early November, the 10th or so. But yeah, it can be a little. But there is an Alice Chalmers Museum there
Mm,
that sometime I would like to go through. And of course, West Allis was where the huge plant was at. And I think the fairground that they have Train Fest at might even be on the original Alice Chalmers property.
hmm
I'd have to look, or real close by anyway. But with the museum and everything there, I would like to get over there sometime and see it. Then while I got you on, did you check out the train simulator program that I sent you link to?
I'm trying to remember if I did or not. I don't remember if I
Yeah.
probably didn't, otherwise I'd remember it.
Some of those are getting to look fairly realistic nowadays.
Yeah.
And with the dispatching CTC panels and everything. It's just amazing. I remember the old Microsoft flight simulator I had back in the 90s, and it was so crude compared to what they're doing nowadays with
Yeah.
the train simulator program information I sent you, they only have certain sections of the country available that where the track's already programmed in and everything. I think most of that Southern California, around the LA area. If you want to go Barstow to Bakersfield or down into LA person, all that's already done. And I think if you want to pay extra, then you can get other maps that people have already been working on. Anyway, it was just kind of interesting. I ran across it on YouTube, and so Rodney K, what have you been up to?
Oh, not too much. We've been working on my buddy's layout, just trying to keep putting in extra LCC modules and that. It was like there's 6 sections on the railroad that we divided into, and we're working on the 4th one now, which is the biggest one. There's 7 signal nodes and 5
Wow.
BDO 4 CPs. So it's a lot. and you know, you got to do all these steps. Like, you know, I never cut in even the insulated joints, and I did that last week. I was going to go over there tonight to mark signal cables. I says I just took a break off from it tonight, so I only got 1 day off from work this week. So on the railroad, the prototype. So
Yeah, well, yeah, that it can take a lot of time, especially
yeah,
those nodes never have enough memory in them for the conditions.
yeah. Well, my buddy Rob Ball programs them. He does that, but I'm doing all the wiring, and that's what takes a lot of time.
Oh,
He's got it figured out pretty good with the conditionals and the amount of capacity. It's fine. We're okay with that. So, I mean, and we always, you know, and then we always test each section with cats, open it up, you know, make sure we got it, because we're not running with cats yet, because got to get basically the whole railroad in. Otherwise, you'd have all these gaps on the railroad.
so was this an existing model railroad that you're adapting the LCC?
Yeah, but it was all planned for signaling. It's just that we chose LCC. We started signaling, so the whole railroad came into, you know, just into use, and then we're cutting LCC in as we go, and then we're automatically we lay, you know, cats on top of it when we switch it over, test it to CTC, and like we've sent Rodney their other information with that he working on with the fix there with the signals not. How do we describe it there, Rodney? It was because of the signals as the train went by. I had to re-clear behind it and then release it to get the traffic to release.
Yeah.
Because
That was the problem. I've got fixed. I just need to get the stuff into a format where I can release it.
yeah, and on our end, there's no hurry at all. We know we talked about that. So because we used exit signals from interlocking, Steve, that were just blank, you know, just virtual signals is all, so that we could get a restricting right behind a movement, and that monkeyed stuff up as far as cats for not bad, but Rodney got a fix to it. So
Yeah, I've been going back through my stuff and eliminating the virtual signals, and I had 2 that were just driving me nuts. So I've eliminated them. Then I change the conditionals around it, and that this seems to be working better. Because
Yeah.
by taking virtual signal out and just redoing the conditionals, seamless.
But we sort of need that virtual signal because we want to be able to get following movements with a restricting behind a train. So the only way to do that is to have two blocks, and it's one that's not really there. So and then that, if for some reason that monkeyed up the traffic when a train went by one way, you couldn't get the signal to clear the other without realigning the other one and knocking it down in the other direction. So and so my buddy Rob recorded a real good guy to Rodney, and he found it. So
Great. So Rodney, which railroad do you actually work for then?
I work for CSX Transportation. So I'm an engineer. My total time on the railroad is 48 years.
Wow.
So I was a train dispatcher in that, which I told Rodney before, right up to 1989. And then they closed our office when they started consolidating stuff. So I went to T&E then. So I've been in T&E since 1989, and I'm like the second senior guy now, even though I had to restart my seniority. All the benefits stayed. I stayed in the same railroad, Conrail, and then went to CSX in '99 when they bought up their section of Conrail. And so all my benefits stayed there, like vacation and rare retirement and all that. But you have to start seniority in the craft again. But it didn't end up hurting me too bad at all. Here I am, I'm like number 2 in the terminal right now.
Wow. So I'm unfamiliar. What is T&E?
Train and engine service. Train and engine. That means I'm on locomotive engine, and you run the trains. You're the crews for the trains. So it's either basically now it's a conductor or engineer, and I'm always working as an engineer.
But you're an employee of CSX?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I got confused there. Yeah. But
No.
where are you located at? I've forgotten.
I'm in Clarence, New York, which is a suburb of Buffalo. That's where I work out of Buffalo,
Okay.
New York.
Yeah.
And I run to Niagara. My current assignment is to run to Niagara Falls. So I work afternoons. At 2 in the afternoon, we go to work, and you're not sure when you're going to get done. Usually it's around 9 hours or so, and you take a train to Niagara Falls, which is only 27 miles. But by the time you get the power out, you put it on a train and you run it to Niagara. The running time to Niagara Falls is only about an hour and 15 minutes with the train. But then you got to take the train apart that you got up there. Then you got to get paperwork for a new one, have your lunch, and then go back with another train to Buffalo. And all you did is a little stumble, and you end up making way more than 8 hours sometimes.
Wow. Did you follow Amtrak at all?
Do I follow them?
Well, yeah. There's each day I check on the LA to Chicago, Chicago to Oakland trains, and they're always running 4 or 5 hours late. And on the Amtrak map, when you click on it, it's about conflicting train movements and everything, and of course their equipment breaks down pretty often. A lot of that equipment's so darn old that they're just having a heck of a time.
Oh yeah. Well, the only interaction we have with Amtrak is we do have Amtraks that go to up the run that I'm on to Niagara Falls, and a couple trains terminate there from New York, and one goes right on through to Toronto. So we do interact with them. And I also see the one that goes the lakeshore between Chicago and New York. Yeah, I see that go by Buffalo. But they're all, they're running late a lot, but not too bad on the Empire service routes. A lot of times they're close to on time. But of course, that's a lot different. You could deal with one engine and 5 coaches.
Okay. So the train that goes into Canada, where's customs at? Where do they check that stuff?
It's right at the bridge, right in Niagara Falls, New York / New York, Ontario. And it's the world. They call it the suspension bridge. It's not a suspension bridge, where it was a suspension bridge many years ago. But there's a customs agents are right there at the Amtrak station in Niagara Falls. The bigger thing with customs is coming into the U.S. So the train takes a long time to get across. He arrives Niagara Falls, Canada, and then he'll be there for a little bit, and the crew gets on and pulls it into the United States, and then they're usually at the station for like over an hour with customs. It's scheduled in, so even if they're ready to go, they can't leave at a certain time. Usually it runs on time, but it takes. It leaves Toronto like at 8 o'clock, and it doesn't get to Buffalo like 1 afternoon, and that's only 100 miles. So, I mean, with the customs delay.
Yeah, I was just curious because I've been on the motorcycle up into Canada and back, and customs. Yeah, it's tougher getting in the United States than it is into Canada. But this was 10 years ago. I was just wondering what they did on the train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what it it's they have the customs people look, just get ready. I think they detrain in Niagara Falls is what I heard. They go through the customs agency right in the Niagara Falls station. They built some new station for umpteen $1 million there that have everything in it, but hardly anybody uses it really.
So people have to get off the Amtrak train and go through the station, then get back on the train.
And the customs is right in there. They don't come on anymore, I guess, unless I think they do it for disabled people, but it's like just get off and then you get back on. It's right there, just off the platform. It's not like you got to go far.
Oh, okay.
It's not, yeah, you only go a couple hundred feet, maybe at most.
Well, I was just curious because I would certainly like to ride the Canadian trains, and I had thought about going from the Midwest, going up to Buffalo area, and then crossing into Canada, then riding over to Vancouver, and then back along the Columbia River Valley.
Well, that's the Canadian, right?
Yeah, that always, because I've been at Bath and Jasper and Lake Louise on the motorcycle several times, but I would like to see it by train sometime. I think it'd be a really nice ride.
Oh yeah, but my friend has done that. It's very expensive.
Yeah, well, can't take it with me.
I guess not. Okay.
Must spend. Yeah. I know the luxury train is probably $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a person. Do the luxury one where they stop each night and you sleep in your room on the train, but the train's not moving and they feed you pretty good. So it always looked like it might be a fun thing to do.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know. They run late too up there, but it's more of a luxury. It's like a cruise ship.
Yeah.
But I see there's a Christopher Artell on here. You got any questions or?
Yeah, welcome, Christopher. I don't think I've seen you on here before.
Maybe he's trying to figure out like my phone. I had to take time to figure it out how to turn it on.
Yeah, I start about 10 minutes before meeting as it starts so I can refresh my memory on what buttons and things. So I'm looking at it on an iPad now.
Oh, you're on an iPad right now? Yeah. You probably haven't. Christopher's probably having trouble unmuting his mic. I had the same problem. It took me a couple minutes to.
Well, it seems like when you first get on, it's unmuted, and then I got to look and turn the mic off, and then turn the video off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rodney, one of these days you got to get a camera back.
Yeah, I know it.
So
I miss seeing you.
are you on the PC, Rodney?
I'm on my desktop. Yeah, I've got two laptops here that have cameras. It's just that
Yeah.
I have to put them on the table in front of me.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's easier using an iPad as long as the battery doesn't go down on me. But,
Yeah. Well, I'm just on a cell phone, so.
oh, Christopher just wrote that he doesn't have a microphone.
Oh, just listening. Okay, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know where conversations are at on this. Oh, the chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, he can hear us.
Yes. He says he's just listening. So anyway, welcome.
Yeah. I know, Chris, that this should be reposted on YouTube, the whole thing, because you missed out. I missed out on a lot of it, but it'll be that what's his name from OPSEC reposts it right there, Rodney. I forget his
Yeah,
name.
Eric.
Eric, yeah, Eric reposts it, yeah. So the whole thing will be on there. You can watch it.
Well, it was the beginning was pretty general stuff. I just had a few questions.
Yeah. Sometimes I see this group get into real good specific conversation. Other times it's just seeing what's going on.
It's hit and miss.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it is what it is. That's fine.
Well, I think I'm going to take off.
Yeah.
Got to get dinner, and then the Iowa girls play. The basketball team plays in their Big Ten tournament tonight at 8 o'clock. So I want to watch that on TV.
8 o'clock your time. Okay, you got to be
Yeah.
in.
Oh, here, Christopher just put out something here on the chat. He has a question of Rodney.
Sure, absolutely. I've got an ARP Raspberry Pi here, and what I did is I downloaded Steve Todd's JamRI image for the Raspberry Pi, and I just moved my cat stuff, the zip file that I got off of the website, put it on there, and it came up and run just really well.
Does that run fast enough on a Raspberry Pi?
Yeah, I was doing well, I've not put on a big layout or anything. I do a little bit of testing on some smaller type files, and you could see it wasn't as snappy, but it seemed like it worked okay.
And is there minimum amount of memory you have to have for the Raspberry Pi?
I don't know what the minimum is. When I bought my 4 Pi um, during the height of COVID, so that'd be what, 5 years ago?
Yeah, you and I bought them about the same time there.
That's right. I said, okay, since you can't slip in memory sticks, I bought it with the max memory, and I forget if it was 4 gig or 8 gig.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe 8 gig.
That was probably it, and I had no problems.
Yeah, Christopher replied that I have a 4 and a number 5, both with 8 gigabyte of memory, so that's probably enough memory.
Yeah, I think you'll be okay. Again, depends upon how big of a layout you got.
Okay, well, been good talking with everybody. I'm gonna
Yep.
run. So
Yeah, I'm gonna go too. So, all right,
Okay.
Christopher, maybe next time you can get a mic there eventually and a phone or whatever.
all right. Well, good night,
Good
everybody.
night.
See you later. Thanks.
Bye.
We'll see you guys.
Bye.